The migratory crisis across Latin America is reaching breaking points in Colombia, sparking a humanitarian crisis in the northwestern department of Antioquia. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea and South Korea have restored cross-border communications in a move that the two countries said was part of an effort to rebuild trust. And the Tunisian president sacked the defense minister on Monday, a day after ousting the prime minister and suspending parliament in what the country's biggest political party decried as a coup. Hello, welcome to TeleSUR English. I am Estefania Bravo from the headquarters of Quito in Ecuador. This is from the south. The migratory crisis across Latin America is reaching breaking points in Colombia, sparking a humanitarian crisis in the northwestern department of Antioquia. Some 10,000 people hoping to move on to Panama to eventually reach the United States are now gathered in the municipality of Urabá, where regional authorities stress they are unable to meet their needs in the face of a complete lack of state support. Meanwhile, local media have denounced that some business sectors are taking advantage of the migrants, charging them more for goods. Many have already paid huge sums to traffickers who then abandon them to their fate. In exclusive statements to TeleSUR, Cuban ambassador to France, Elio Rodriguez Perdomo, offered details of the terrorist attack on the country's embassy in Paris.
At midnight last night, our embassy suffered a terrorist attack. Our staff reacted quickly, and it was our own colleagues who were able to stop the fire from spreading. It was midnight, and the families that live here in the embassy were resting, including 5 children with their fathers and mothers. This kind of act demonstrates the nature of these people.
And the Cuban ambassador reiterated the interest behind such an act and confirmed that French authorities have launched an investigation.
As was said, the minister, on behalf of our government, reacted very quickly, condemning this terrorist act, holding the United States responsible for the campaign that instigates and promotes this type of violent action against Cuban institutions, inside and outside Cuba. We here acted immediately, together with the French authorities. As has been said, an investigation has been launched and is underway. The police authorities have reinforced the security arrangements around our embassy, and we continue to work normally, calmly, and with determination.
Ambassador Rodriguez also stressed that Cuba will not accept any foreign interference in its internal affairs.
We have made it clear, in the voice of our foreign minister, that we do not recognize the right of anyone to intervene in the internal affairs of Cuba. It is only up to Cubans to solve our own difficulties. We will never accept any kind of interference in our internal affairs, and what those governments should do, above all, is to take care of their own problems, of which they have plenty to tend to.
The French government condemned the attack against the Cuban embassy in Paris on Monday night. There were no casualties reported, although there was material damage to the facility. The French Foreign Ministry assured that security was reinforced at the diplomatic mission. Cuban authorities have denounced the use of information and communication technologies to incite criminal and terrorist acts in the country, including cyber attacks on government sites and media outlets, with the backing of the United States government. In a letter to the General Secretariat of the International Telecommunications Union, the Cuban Ministry of Communications denounced that such hostile acts are contrary to the principles set forth by the United Nations agency. Havana emphasized that the United States is promoting an international campaign with the use of social media networks to promote hate speech, incitement to violence, subversion, the dissemination of fake news, and the distortion of Cuba's reality for political purposes and as a pretext for further sanctions and military interventions. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador spoke out against the coercive measures imposed against Cuba for the last 60 years. The president denounced the U.S. blockade and reiterated the solidarity of the people of Mexico with the island. He also announced that a first shipment of humanitarian aid to Cuba, including food and medical supplies, set sail this Tuesday from Veracruz and a second ship on Wednesday. López Obrador has called on other nations to go further down, simply denouncing the U.S. blockade as they do at the United Nations each year, and turn this expression into concrete support for Cuba.
As we all know, there is a delicate situation in Cuba because they are suffering from a blockade. This is something that I consider inhumane because it is an extreme measure. It is like a medieval action. It is a sign of a great backwardness in foreign policy.
The opposition St Lucia Labour Party secured a landslide victory in Monday's general elections. Analysts said voters had expressed their frustration at the ballot box by removing the Alan Chancellor government after a 5-year term in office. In addition, history was made as voters elected 2 independent candidates to the 17-member lower house of parliament. Among them, former Prime Minister Stephen King, who quit the ruling United Workers' Party to contest the Kitchener's North constituency, which he has been representing for nearly 3 decades.
Where we shall put the interests of St. Lucians and St. Lucia first. When you go to the polls on 26 July 2021, vote the St. Lucia Labour Party. We are ready. The SLP is ready. We have faith that the people of St. Lucia.
And Peru is preparing for the inauguration of President-elect Pedro Castillo after a drawn-out electoral process, which many denounced as a bid to undermine the incoming leader. Heads of state and government are carrying in the country to attend the inauguration on Wednesday to other protocol events. The ceremony will coincide with the 200th anniversary of Peru's independence. Leaders and dignitaries from Ecuador, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Spain, and other countries are set to attend. Political and social movements in El Salvador mobilized on Tuesday in solidarity with former officials detained by President Nayib Bukele's government, announcing what they described as political persecution. Protests took place after the Attorney General's office filed proceedings on Sunday against 10 former officials of the administration of former President Mauricio Funes. The prosecutor of the case said that the individuals are accused of illicit enrichment, embezzlement, and money laundering. Those accused include former President Salvador Sánchez Serén, who served as vice president under Funes. Chile's Congress is advancing in the discussion of equal marriage bill promoted by progressive forces of the country. The Constitution, Legislation, and the Justice Committee of the lower house continues pending debates with the utmost urgency. The president of the committee declared that they hope to have processed the bill in full by the end of the year. For its part, the homosexual movement and the Integration and Liberation called on the Congress members to speed up the process, considering it a historical debt of the Chilean state with same-sex couples and homoparental families. We're taking our first break now. Join us again after this. And also don't forget to follow me on my Twitter account at TeleSUR for more. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea and South Korea have restored cross-border communications just over a year since they were cut off, in a surprise move that the two countries said was part of an effort to rebuild trust. The joint announcement on Tuesday, which coincided with the anniversary of the end of the Korean War, was the first positive development since a series of summits between the DPRK leader Kim Jong-un and the South President Moon Jae-in in 2018 failed to achieve any significant breakthrough. The two sides revealed that Kim and Moon had exchanged a series of letters since April in which they agreed that re-establishing hotlines would be a productive first step in a rebooting relations between the two nations. The United Nations welcomed the announcement that the two Koreas have restored their communication channels dormant for more than a year.
The Secretary General welcomes the announcement by the two Koreas of the resumption of the Panmunjom and Inter-Korean Liaison Office communications channels today, as well as the reconnection of the military hotline. The Secretary General fully supports the continued efforts of the parties towards the improvement of their relationship, sustainable peace, and complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Also help to improve infection prevention.
The violent attacks of January 6 on the U.S. Capitol are being investigated by a committee. The first of the hearings on Tuesday focused on the testimonies of the officers attacked by rioters. According to the accusations, the officers were subject to attacks with chemical irritants, trampling, and beatings. The Trump-supporting rioters shouted racial slurs and used the officers' own weapons against them. The judiciary has declared the importance of the case for democratic order and the application of the law. However, partisan tensions are rising, with Republicans bluntly denying the attacks and claiming the motivation of the case to be that of a political move, as Democrats are using the situation to gain supporters by exploding the shocking event that unfolded at the beginning of the year. And the Vatican has begun hearing in a fraud trial described as historic relating to corruption at the highest levels of the Catholic Church. Giovanni Angelo Becciu, once one of the Pope's most influential advisors and the all-powerful heads of the Vatican's saint-making office, becomes the first cardinal in modern history to stand trial accused of criminal offenses inside the Holy See. Alongside him, 9 others are accused, facing charges of embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, and abuse of power, all related to the investment of 350 million euros in a property in the UK capital, London. At least 9 cities in Brazil have suspended the application of the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines due to a lack of supplies. Local authorities state that the measure comes in response to the delays in the delivery of the vaccines by the Ministry of Health. Minister Marcelo Queiroga announced that the distribution of more than 10 million vaccine doses has begun and shrugged off criticism over the delays in a country that has recorded the second highest COVID-19 death toll in the world and third highest number of cases, and been plagued with scandals surrounding the purchase of the vaccines. And Argentina's government continues negotiations to secure COVID-19 vaccines. The health minister announced that deals have been reached with the U.S. lab Pfizer as well as with the Chinese firm CanSino for millions of doses.
Yesterday, I signed a binding agreement with the laboratory Pfizer. It is a binding agreement for 20 million doses of vaccines during 2021. Yesterday, I finally signed the payment for the first 200,000 doses of the CanSino vaccine of the 5.4 million dose contract, also for 2021.
This Tuesday, Russia's coronavirus emergency task force reported the lowest daily number of new COVID-19 cases since June 30th. Although daily cases in the country have been slowly decreasing in recent weeks, the number of active cases still continues to grow. Authorities reported just over 23,000 new cases on Tuesday. However, the active cases are nearing 500,000. In addition, the mortality rate remains high as the coronavirus has claimed over 700 lives a day recently. Commenting on the situation, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said only vaccination will allow Russia to cope with the spread of the virus. Italy has seen fresh protests against the government's Green Pass scheme, which will restrict entry into certain facilities for those who are not vaccinated or cannot prove they are not infected with COVID-19. The Green Pass, which is an extension of the European Union's digital COVID certificate, will be required from August 6 to enter cinemas, museums, indoor swimming pools, sports stadiums, and to eat indoors at restaurants. While people working in the restaurant industry protested in Rome against the move, a surge in vaccine bookings was reported following the announcement of the plans, an effect the government had hoped for.
What I'm saying is this measure necessary today? Is the provision of, let's say, a biosecurity state where you have to continually certify that you're not ill consistent with the rule of law? Taking into account the fact that with vaccination we say that it avoids serious illness but not contagion, what is the point of the Green Pass?
The Japanese capital, currently hosting the 2020 Olympic Games, has reported its highest daily figure of COVID-19 cases to date. The latest figure of over 2,800 surpasses the previous record set on January 7th. The news comes in the midst of a fourth state of emergency set to be enforced in Tokyo until just before the Paralympics start in late August. Experts have warned that the more contagious Delta variant could cause a surge during the Games, whose opening ceremony took place on Friday. India registered less than 30,000 new coronavirus infections for the first time since March this Tuesday, when the second wave of the virus sparked a health crisis. India has now reported almost 31.5 million COVID-19 cases and over 400,000 deaths. However, numerous experts have pointed out that the true numbers, especially of COVID-19 related deaths, are likely several times higher than those recorded by the authorities. According to a study on excess mortality during the pandemic by the Center for Global Development, published last week, India has seen as many as 5 million COVID-19 deaths. At the same time, limited vaccine stocks remain a problematic issue. We are taking one last break now. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. Tunisian President Kais Saied sacked the defense minister on Monday, a day after ousting the prime minister and suspending parliament in what the country's biggest political party decried as a coup. Street clashes erupted on Monday outside the army-barricaded parliament after Saied dismissed Prime Minister Hichem Meshishi and ordered parliament closed for 30 days. In the afternoon hours, the presidency announced the dismissals of both the defense minister and the acting justice minister. The move plunges the North African nation into constitutional crisis in the midst of a pandemic.
I have taken responsibility. I am taking a historic responsibility. Those who claim this matter is related to a coup need to revise their lessons in the constitution.
Residents in the Tunisian capital Tunis offered mixed reactions to the move by President Kais Saied to freeze parliament and sack government ministers.
That Kais Saied wants to become a dictator and behave against the revolution, of course the people will rise up against him and overthrow him. We are a bit scared of what may happen. and the return of Ben Ali era. Now there is only one power. It is the president who holds the executive and judicial power. It is really a rescue operation because lately all Tunisians have seen that the economic and social situation has deteriorated a lot under the government's policies that have been in place for years and that have not met the expectations of the people. That's why the time has come for change.
Hopefully everything will go well. I hope the future will be good. He has taken a good step, a very positive one, and I hope that the future will get better and better.
The main party in the Tunisian parliament, the Ennahda movement, said on Tuesday it is ready to hold early elections to protect democracy and avoid an autocratic regime. In this context, the Russian Foreign Ministry also said Tuesday it hopes that Tunisia's internal contradictions will be resolved within the legal framework. For its part, the United States expressed its concern over the dismissal of Prime Minister Meshishi. Moreover, France announced that it hopes government institutions will return to their usual work as soon as possible to address the health, economic, and social crisis the country is experiencing. And Lebanon's new Prime Minister-designate Najib Mikati set about trying to form a long-awaited cabinet on Tuesday as the economic crisis continues. The billionaire politician, already twice having served as Prime Minister, was designated on Monday, days after Saad Hariri threw in the towel. The previous government of Hassan Diab resigned following the deadly port explosion in Beirut last August, and since the country has seen a worsening economic crisis and political deadlock. The institutional vacuum is holding up potential international financial rescue plan for Lebanon, which the World Bank has described as suffering one of the world's worst crises since the mid-19th century.
It's not tied to one person. It's tied to something larger. In the end, Najib Mikati is the result of a settlement, a result of the composition of the country's ruling class. He is a thief. He is like all the others who have looted the country. The same people have been in power for 40 to 50 years. They still steal. Najib Mikati was prime minister before. What did he do? What did he change? Tell me, what did he change? We've tried Najib Mikati before, and his government was a failure. It was based on quotas. It brought no hope to Lebanon. I don't believe any government in this current era can succeed. We are going towards further deterioration and the hardest days the Lebanese people have ever faced.
The Syrian government is working to assure the safe return of all refugees despite ongoing Western-backed terrorist attacks. In a meeting with Russia's special envoy for Syria, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad thanked Russia for the humanitarian aid provided and support and cooperations in other fields. Damascus has repeatedly denounced that Western countries and their allies in the region are using Syrian refugees as a bargaining chip in order to justify interference in the country's internal affairs. People in the northern Ethiopian region of Tigray are starving as the UN World Food Programme confirmed it will be out of supplies in a few days. The executive director of the program, David Beasley, tweeted that 100 trucks of food a day are required to serve the population the agency has set out to feed in Tigray, where hundreds of thousands of people face the world's worst famine crisis in a decade. He stressed that 170 trucks of food and other supplies have been blocked in the neighboring region of Afar. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I am Estefania Bravo. See you next time.